too bad for you. All right. Matthew McConaughey quote there for you. What's up, Tyler Edmonson? How you doing, sir? Jacob Botwinick? Are you a bot, Jacob? Tony Brown, how you doing? Drinking a water, by the way. So just a heads up. It's not beer. Not yet. Flaming Friday? Stop it. James Rice. Hey, Ty, on my way back from Little Rock. I get to catch you want for once live in a while. Okay, James, I'm sorry. Either I'm having a stroke or I read that entirely wrong. Tyler, again with the $2 dono. Thank you, but I don't even want to start. Sure, likely story. That's beer. No, it's really not. If I could point the camera, I swear it's water. It'll be beer when we're done here, probably. What's up, my guy? How's it going, Dakin? That's a really cool name, by the way. Dakin. Jacob Zeltner, TGIF. Oh, my God. I had a week, ladies and gentlemen. You'll find it someday. Full of monies. I will. One day I'm going to figure out how to open that up. I'll be honest with you. I gripe about it here. Like, I can't figure out how to open it up. I can't figure it out. And then I forget about it as soon as I'm done going live. All right. Well, welcome, everybody, to a live episode or another live show of the Picture Network YouTube channel. I'm its host and creator, Ty Hudson. You can also find me in a number of places, but definitely here in the Hawk Talk podcast and on Twitter at Tyzilla83. I want your shirt. My dude, I swear to God, I don't even know where my wife got it. I thought it was Walmart, but I don't know. Already rolling in with the predictions already. All right. Well, before we get started, as always, we're going to give it a couple minutes to fill up. It's a Friday night. These are always and you know what? We're having notification issues again. I don't know what the deal is, but I had a couple of emails and some Twitter DMs, and a few of my friends on Facebook were like, I never got the DM that you went live. So here we go again with that. After I thought we'd gotten that all straightened out with YouTube, and we're seeing that right here. Not a whole lot of people in here right now, and that's fine. Again, it's Friday night, and I thought about doing these at like 6, but the problem is I've got mouths to feed. Right, I got my two daughters. It's just me and them tonight. Their mom's out on the town while it's me and them. So I'm gonna hook them up. We're gonna have a daddy-daughter night. Really looking forward to that. So I got to do that. That's why I couldn't go later, but I'd really considered it. Maybe going live at 6. But I also want to catch people before they go to high school football games and what have you. So if you guys would, if you would like, comment, share the content. That's what matters the absolute most. Copy and paste in that URL up top, or copying it and then pasting it somewhere. That goes a long ways. Putting that on social media somewhere and all that. So I really would appreciate it. And also, don't forget to check out all the links down below in the description part of the video down below. All right. Get going. I've got to go pick up groceries in an hour. Well, first off, Kelly Marie, I gotta, we give it a minute or two. We gotta let people fill in. I'm sorry. How could anyone pick the Hogs? Laugh out loud. Tony Brown, what did Tony Brown say? I've been waiting all week for this. Oh, Tony, you're the man. Thank you. Oh, yeah, Discord too. I always want to post Discord. We are rocking it over on the Discord. So you guys should be a part of it. Oh, look at that. I'm getting notified on Twitter. Tyzilla of the Hawk Talk podcast is live. It's you, Kelly. I don't know. I think that's Kelly Marie. I appreciate that. I promise. We're going to get this thing going here in just a second. I always like to give you guys a few minutes, because here's the other thing. I hate repeating myself. Let's see. I'm gonna send you guys Discord. Again, do this every time we go live. in case you want to come be a part of something pretty fun. The conversations have been awesome. Okay. Kelly says, yep, that was me. Thank you, Kelly. And also, thank you for tagging me. I'll have people like, hey, I tweeted or I Facebooked about your live stream or about one of your videos. And I'm like, oh, thank you for that. And they're like, yeah. You didn't know? And I was like, no, I didn't know. Like, you've got to add me in the tweet. You've got to at Tyzilla83 and then add me in the tweet somehow. But Kelly's out here. She's rocking she's not only is she notifying me, but she's also saying of the Hog Talk podcast, including them in the tweet. You're special, Kelly. I really do appreciate that. Bruce Hunt, I've been watching the Hogs for over 50 years. Bruce, you and my dad could probably sit and tell stories about the Hogs, their favorite moments. I would honestly sit and listen to that. Not kidding. There's nothing more Arkansas, nothing more hog. I'm trying to combine two words. Hoggerific. Razor fantastic. I don't know. Whatever. There's nothing better than listening to a couple of guys or old fan. Doesn't matter. Man, woman, whatever. People a little bit older than myself talking about like watching, Steve Atwater play. Okay, I was too young to remember Steve Atwater or Joe Ferguson or back in the Broyles era, or the Lou Holtz era. It's nothing better than listening to that because it's like, oh, God, a time when Arkansas was relevant in college football. That must have been terrific because it's been a while for some of us who are in our mid-30s. We got a short taste. We got a little taste of it off and on in the Houston Nutt era and the Bobby Petrino era, but nothing like the Frank Broyles, Lou Holtz, Ken Hatfield. Did I say Bear Bryant? I feel like I said Bear Bryant a minute ago. I was talking about Bear Bryant with a friend of mine earlier today on the phone, and we were going back and forth about how he should have coached the Razorbacks, and he's from here, and obviously he's coached all around. So I've got Bear Bryant on the brain. I'm sorry if I did that. Whoopik Suey waiting on game in Arlington, Texas. Raztastic, says James. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, we're good to go. We can do this. We can get going. Arkansas taking on Texas A&M. But and my wife is Marco Poloing me as we speak. Before we get into the Razorback part of the football part of it, we got to talk about the Razorback basketball commit. Duncan Powell, 4-star power forward. He's around 6'7.5", 6'8". According to 24/7, he's 6'8". 200 pounds. He's from West Virginia. He plays at Huntington Prep in West Virginia. He's part of that 2021 class. He's got some. He's got some offers. There's no doubt. TCU, Ole Miss, SMU. Let's see. There was another good one. I thought Tennessee had pulled the trigger, but they hadn't. They are interested, but they haven't pulled the trigger. There's some rumblings out there that if he gets a certain SEC offer or a school out of the ACC, a couple schools out of the ACC, supposedly if they come along, it could be a threat to losing Duncan Powell. But I don't know. From what I understand, he loves Musselman, everything about Fayetteville. I don't see him. You never know. But he is a part of that 2021 class. According to 24/7 Sports and Rivals, he's a 4-star. I think he's a 4-star across the board. But according to them, 24/7 Sports, he's a top 130 player in the country. He's a top 30 power forward, and he's a top 3 player out of the state of West Virginia. Big time commit. Sticking with Arkansas basketball news, Isaac McBride, Kansas Jayhawk commit and signee. Obviously, he wants out. He's a point guard, 6'1", 6'2", 175 pounds. We all know he's from Arkansas. Supposedly interested. Supposedly here on campus. I think he is. I heard that earlier this afternoon. So I don't know how long he's on visit or how long he's here for his visit, but it's nice. It'd be nice to get someone like that. McBride was a pretty good pickup for Kansas, but he committed to Kansas back in October 1st of 2018. Obviously, he was a part of that 2019 class. Would not be eligible until next year. So that's basketball. Musselman's got me pumped, y'all. I'm not even going to lie about it. I'm not going to do this whole thing where you buy into all the preseason hype and then use some of that hype to push what you think is going to happen during the season. I've said before, I have a hard time seeing, and it's not basketball season yet, but our producer, Porter Hayes, a.k.a. Peck, and I were talking about this on Marco Polo. just earlier this week about how we're having to transition to basketball because of how bad things are with football. And so we're having to transition from football to basketball. And so I'm already doing my research about basketball. And I'm not going to lie to you. I have a hard time seeing this team making the tournament year one. That's a too early projection. It could possibly change. It could possibly change the closer we get to the basketball season. But I'm going to say this. I'm starting to learn more and more often with Razorback athletics to just go with your gut instinct, to always go with your first gut instinct. And I feel like I'm going to fall prey to some of that hype. Maybe I will. I don't know. And then look, and that's nothing against Musselman. That has more to do with the size. I think he's got athletes. I really do. And I'm confident that he's a hell of a coach. That guy's journey is just, I mean, my God, you wonder why maybe he's not like a higher tier NBA assistant. With his work as a basketball, I think of him like someone who's been around so much. You kind of think of him as I don't know, not a professor of basketball, but he seems like it, right? He's coached at all levels. He's been around it. He's, Lynn Sanity. You remember that? You remember him? He actually credits Musselman as a part of his development, right? Getting into the NBA. That sort of stuff you listen to, and then you go back and you watch film on Nevada, what he did at Nevada. Like, wow. Okay. All right. Maybe he's legit. I don't know. So, all right, let's transition to football really quick. Before we do, I need to pull something up here really quick. I was gonna list where he had where Eric Musselman had coached from 2011 to 2013. Yeah, he was coaching Venezuela, and then 2010 to 2011 the Dominican Republic, and in 2009 he was coaching an international team in China. That's interesting. But yeah, obviously he was hired on at Nevada from 2015 till 2019. Musselman's, I like his background. He worked off and on in the NBA with Golden State and Memphis and Sacramento. The list goes on. The excitement for basketball is finally back, and I haven't felt this good since, like, I don't know, Bobby Portis, Michael Qualls era of basketball. Like, wow, I think we have. I'm confident. All right. Okay, football. Let's get into it. It's not going to be fun because we got to start off with Arkansas's chances of winning this game. According to ESPN, not so good. Honestly, I'm really surprised that A&M's not favored at like 98, 97%, according to the ESPN Football Power Index, but they're sitting at 93.3%. And this is a 2-2 football team. Granted, they lost to Auburn and Clemson, but like they haven't really shined. They haven't given you anything on film to go, oh my God, they've got talent. They're great. They have talent. Make no mistake about that. But they're so great. They're really good at this or that. Like their defense is legit. I'm going to tell you, I think their defense is pretty good. I don't know if they're Auburn or LSU or Alabama on defense, but they're like top 5 in the SEC, top 6. They're going to give Arkansas a lot of trouble. There's no doubt about that. They might just very well live in Arkansas's backfield if they're going to know the type of underwear our quarterback and running back wear. Like they're going to know if they're boxers or briefs. No doubt in my mind. They're going to know. Ha! Briefs, man. All right. Okay. That's what this is going to be. It's going to be embarrassing, I think. That's my opinion. I don't think they cover the spread. The spread right now is at 23.5. The over-under is at 61. I just don't like Arkansas's odds to cover. And I know that traditionally this has been a pretty close game. And really, all things point to this being a typical Arkansas A&M matchup because, again, A&M hasn't popped on paper or on film as far as the offense is concerned. At times, their defense has had some questions. But for the most part, they're pretty sound on defense. They have a capable quarterback who, guess what? He could live outside the pocket. And what has Arkansas struggled at doing all year? Containing the outside, right? Outside containment. It's not been there. Well, A&M can live out there against Arkansas's defense. And if you go based on what Arkansas couldn't do against San Jose State, you're going to tell me that A&M can't double that type of productivity on the field? I don't know. I don't think they cover the spread. I've come to an understanding a little bit with the Chad Morris era. And that's that I I don't want everyone giving up on this team. I don't want everyone giving up on Chad Morris. But I'm starting to come to this understanding in my head that whether it's by design, maybe by Hunter Yurchek or the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor, maybe they're all in this together as a group. I don't know. Or maybe it's just Hunter, or maybe it's not by design at all, but it just happens to be what the circumstances are going to be. And that's that Chad Morris is the Danny Ford of this era of Arkansas football. Now, I know Danny Ford, 95, won the SEC West. But if you go back and watch, that team was not very good. They had no business winning 8 games. The SEC West was not what it is now. I don't think he comes close to that at Arkansas. I think they're going to be lucky. I think his ceiling, even next year, I'm gonna be curious. Again, it depends on what happens this year and the flow of the season. We'll see what kind of changes they make or don't make. Obviously, a lot hinges on what happens this year. But I feel like Danny Ford or Chad Morris is the Danny Ford of this era because based on what he's doing off the field, right? Like he's bringing in some pretty talented players. Danny Ford didn't light the world on fire as far as recruiting, but we also have to understand recruiting back then was a different world. You didn't have this kind of coverage of recruiting like we do now. It's not that hard to go find a website and figure out where hell, you don't even have to be a member of these sites of Rivals and 24/7 and ESPN to look at recruiting rankings. So it's a different world in recruiting. Not to mention these players, these athletes have way more exposure in high school than we've ever seen throughout the history of high school football. Different world, football altogether. But Danny Ford left behind some talent, right? He built from the foundation. He rebuilt the foundation. Now he won. He at least had some sort of productivity on the field to some degree. But then you bring in a young coach like Houston Nutt, and he rallies the troops and he wins games with Danny Ford's talent. I really think that's what Chad Morris is. If I'm bouncing around names, I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a crazy day, and I'm really tired. But I feel like I'm saying the wrong names. But I do feel like Chad Morris. I feel like he's the Danny Ford of this generation of Arkansas Razorback football without the success on the field. In terms of, look at the roster, okay? The roster, even though it's freshman talent or JUCO transfers, or just transfers from other schools, is the best it's been in terms of just raw talent that we have seen since Brett Bielema's first and second year on campus, and probably better. Look at Trey Knox. I mean, the guy on a losing bad football team is actually turning heads as a freshman receiver. And I think Burks will be there too, if Burks can stay healthy. But there's a lot of variables in how we move forward, right? Like, obviously, these guys got to stick together. We can't have players transferring. We can't have people leaving like what's going on at Tennessee. If they stick together, I don't know what happens with Chad. I just don't feel like he's going to fit it. I don't think he's going to work here. And I think that's just beyond the most obvious thing that anybody could say right now. I get that. But I just have a really hard time seeing him work out. I really do. We've not seen the lack of a decent product on the field. The sidelines seem to be discombobulated, not on the same level. There's just a lot of things that we've yet to see with this team that you feel like you should have seen by now, right? The writing, like I've said the last several times, the writing is on the wall for Chad Morris. Unless it's a pretty dramatic turnaround, I just have a hard time seeing him work out here. So I think the roster from top to bottom is the best it's been in years. It's going to take somebody else, I think, to come in and to drive this thing home, to right the ship. I don't know. You guys are lighting up the comment section. I'm not reading. Let's see. It's going to be a bloodbath, says Kilmary, about I'm assuming you're talking about Arkansas and A&M. The season broke last week, my guy. Well, and that's what's disappointing is we're just now getting into October and fans are just not interested in football. That should just send the loudest signal. Back-to-back years, this has been the case. You can understand year one, year two, here we are. Bullets before breakfast. Have they released the depth chart for the A&M game? I'm sure they have. I don't have it pulled up right now. Let's see. they'll all look like Heisman candidates against the Hogs. They will. I mean, everyone they play, every quarterback. College football is strange, says Dakin. It is. I've said that a number of times here. It is a strange sport when you really take a step back and look. Anybody really, it's all played on the field. At the end of the day, I can sit here and bark all I want, but if Arkansas turns this thing around, I don't know that I'll be surprised because nothing surprises me anymore in college football. No, I probably will. I probably will be surprised. God bless your soul, Grant. Let me see what Grant said. On my way to Jerry World right now, praying that the game is worth the trip. Grant, I hope you have a good time. I think you're in our Discord. Hope you have a good time and please be safe. Jay Massey, what's up, Ty? How you doing, Jay? You think Petrino will return? No. Nope. And he shouldn't. I don't care. Send me more hate mail. I got some hate mail, by the way. I forgot to tell you guys. Someone did not like my opinion on Petrino. Not going to happen. And it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Grant Patrick, I appreciate it. To Bullets. Willing to hang with Morris through the end of 2020. Let's see. If I see one more thing about Bobby, I'm going to have a stroke. We don't want him. Kelly Marie says, I agree with Kate. I don't know what Kate said. I must have missed it. That hire would make us look weak and foolish. Can't fire Morris until after next season. And if it doesn't work out, we won't beat Bama, says Chance. So, no, they're not going to. Everyone that's left on this schedule throughout the rest of this season, there are no more. There's no, even Western Kentucky. There's not even any coin flips right now, as far as I'm concerned. And I always use the phrase coin flip because it's a too close to call kind of game. I'm not going to say that they can't upset anybody. Like I've said before, they absolutely have the talent to be competitive. It's the coaching staff that I'm just not buying into. I'm just not. Going further into Texas A&M, let's break this game down really fast. A&M, like I said, hasn't really been great on offense, but they've still been better than Arkansas. Their points per game, they're standing at 33 points per game. Points allowed per game, 15, and that's after playing Auburn and Clemson. Total yards on offense, 447, not very far ahead of Arkansas. I know there's a hair on my microphone. Driving me crazy. Total yards, 447. That's not real far ahead of Arkansas, but they do average north of 300 yards per game through the air, and they rush 144 yards. Honestly, Arkansas is not far behind them, but then you have to compare the opponents. Arkansas has not played near the difficulty of schedule. Yards allowed, they're sub 300 yards per game. Okay, this would have been considered good 10 years ago. And we've talked about how the game is so much more about the offense, how it's the average, even bad offenses are putting up 350 a game. And these guys are only giving up 276 yards after playing Clemson and Auburn. Say what you want about Clemson or Auburn, but they're pretty good football teams. I would argue that they're both top. Right now, they're definitely top 10 quality. We know for a fact Clemson is. Auburn is in the mix. Passing yards allowed per game, 165 to Arkansas's 252. Wow. Rushing yards, 111 a game. That's really kind of been their weakness a little bit, but I think a lot of that's because of, it's when you play teams like Clemson and Auburn, and one way or another, you're going to give up some yards on the ground, but I don't think to Arkansas that's going to be a huge threat to them. 158 is what Arkansas gives up a game. 158 to their 110. That's not a huge drastic difference, but it's a pretty big one. So again, Arkansas, we'll go down their stats really quick. Again, they score an average of 29, but they give up 27, right? Their offense, total offense 440 per game. They average about 288 per game through the air. Arkansas averages about 152 on the ground. That is actually more than A&M. Their yards allowed per game, all right? Remember, A&M at 276. What do you think Arkansas is at? If you're not looking at it, 276 A&M on average is what they give up. 410 yards per game. I don't know how anybody hasn't been fired on this defensive staff. I'm not saying that is 100% the right move. I'm just really surprised that nobody has been fired. It's incredible. 410, and that's after playing bad, like not good football teams. It's not like they've played. They played Ole Miss, who's just, I don't know what they are. They're definitely not, they're a bottom dweller in the SEC, just like Arkansas, right? Colorado State, San Jose State, and some FCS school, they're so bad on defense. Like this, somehow they could have taken a step backwards compared to a year ago. I don't know what they were at this point last year per game. This is terrible. I mean, again, even if you're in conference play, this would still be bad. They're going to get smoked. I'm sorry. I don't see them stopping anybody unless you're going to tell me that these first 4 games were just a fluke and they were just getting prepared for SEC play. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that. That is atrocious. That is so bad. So bad. You have to consider who they've played, and it's just embarrassing. Chief back in the press box may do something. So he did that last year, if you remember. He moved around from the press box, and I don't know if it does anything or not. I really don't know. If it doesn't, if you're having to make a change, and you did this last year, what difference does it make at this point, right? I don't know if they're going to give up 700 yards. I don't think they give up that much because A&M has not been good on offense. And also, I think if anything happens, if it gets out of hand, they'll mercy it. A&M will start bringing in their backups, their freshmen, their younger guys, and it'll pad the stats in favor of Arkansas a little bit. You assume that, but then again, Arkansas's defense is just such a joke. Outside of Cam Curl, I really don't know. Like Sosa Agim has been okay, right? Like Pro Football Focus has been in love with him, with Sosa Agim. At least after I think it was after the Colorado State game. I guess he didn't fare too well against San Jose State. But like outside of Sosa, Scuda, and Cam, and you think, well, that's 3 pretty good names. But who are they in the grand scheme? Curl, in my opinion, right now is playing like a first-team All-SEC safety. I guess that's really what I'm getting at. What about Scuda and Sosa? Those guys have actually been pointed out for making mistakes this year by local media, and I have to agree. Sosa gets double teamed a lot. I get that, and I do think he's an NFL caliber defensive lineman. Definitely a defensive tackle in the NFL, depending on the system. Definitely an interior guy. There's no doubt about that. But this defense, there's no excuse for this. There's no excuse, especially given the kind of teams they've played. Teams that lack talent. Teams that don't have Power 5 talent outside of Ole Miss. And they're a mess this year. It's embarrassing how bad this team is. And some people are like, well, this is all getting blown out of proportion. It's not, things aren't really that bad. Yeah, they got some embarrassing losses, but it's all part of the process. No, this is bad. Signals need to be alarmed. Like your flag should be going off like something is wrong, and Arkansas needs to figure out a way to plug the holes because this ship is sinking. So, and this goes back to why I think Morris is just an in-between guy. I don't know if it's by design. I don't think it's by design because I think that the former, the interim AD made a call, and I think she was probably pushed by the Board of Trustees. Supposedly Jerry Jones, Clint Sterner was in the ear of the Board of Trustees. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Jones, maybe. I don't know about Clint Sterner. I do know Clint was pushing for Chad Morris on social media. I do remember that. But I don't know if the board was like, you know what? Yeah, let's just hire this guy. And then the next full-time, Hunter Yurchek, who's going to be our full-time AD, we'll let him make a decision beyond that as far as how long he wants to keep Chad around. So I think when Hunter goes to the media and says that, there's not going to be any repercussions, that, he made a statement that Chad Morris has them in the right direction, I think he's talking about recruiting. Obviously, he's not talking about the on-the-field product, right? I think we're all on the same page with that. The on the field. So maybe in his mind, headed in the right path is he's building up a decent roster, and then next year his buyout decreases, I think, by a couple million. I've heard everything from 12 to 9. I don't even know what to believe anymore. But yeah, you're I don't know, and I don't know what they do at the end of this year if this all falls apart. I mean, it's already falling apart, but if they don't rebound, they do lose to Western Kentucky, and they go 2-10 again. Like I said before, I have a hard time seeing them go for year 3 for Chad. I don't know how you do. unless you just believe in, okay, he's the guy that's going to build our roster up full of good talent. The other question has to be asked, and that's that if you go 2-10, what are the odds that you sign another great class? Like, why is that being assumed? It shouldn't be assumed. You've already had one decommitment who, although wasn't really that surprising because it was kind of hinted for the last couple of months that he might, the countdown was on for him to decommit. And obviously I can't come out and say that because I'll catch heat from different camps. Believe me, I have before. I have had player families get on to me about stuff that I've said, and as along with fans too. So I have to be careful what I say, and I'm not interested in talking about. I mean, I don't have a hard time like telling you, hey, look, this guy is on. I think that there's the odds that someone is probably looking at thinking twice about his commitment to Arkansas. Like we've mentioned Tykees Crawford before, but I don't think that Tykees Crawford decommits. But again, when you look forward to Chad Morris and his ability to recruit, how long does this last? How long does this last if you're going 2-10, 3-9? If the height of your expectations are maybe winning 5 games in 2020. And that non-conference schedule gets a little harder next year. And it's the SEC West, so that's never easy. Even teams that are not so good right now are going to be favored by like 20 points to beat Arkansas. So, again, what are the odds that anybody sticks around for this? High school kids. What are the odds that they buy into what Chad Morris is selling? Hey, we're bad, but I promise I'll get you to the NFL. There's a lot more to it than that. We know that. We've talked on the Hard Talk podcast. We've talked to former players, and we had Chandler Morris on. We talked to him a little bit about it. Some stuff we didn't even record. Some stuff we caught off before we started recording. Like, it's interesting to hear what these kids have to say. And I'm going to tell you something. The direction of your program in terms of wins and losses does matter to these kids. Some people think it's all about just getting to the next level, playing the NFL. Don't get me wrong. That's a big part of it for a lot of these kids, but it's not all of it. All right. Ty, no, this is bad. It is. It's bad. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. Brian Todd, bottom line is the Western Kentucky game will tell the future of the assistant coaching staff and the DC and the OC. I couldn't agree more. That could be a really telling game. And it's sad that we're even sitting here talking about this, isn't it? I can't ever I can last year, I guess, but I can't ever remember under another coaching staff outside of John L., which in my opinion, I knew all along that guy was a one and done. But even the Bielema era, I don't think you ever looked at the non-conference games and go, oh, I don't know if they win that. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Rutgers and Toledo, but like the expectations were still, even going into his 5th year, like, oh, you should win your non-conference games. Like, you should win your non-conference games. And, we saw how that went down. But here we are year 2, and we don't know what to expect. My greatest moment, the Hunter Henry 3, it backwards to Al. Okay, as you're saying, that you're talking about the right. I know what you're talking about. The what do they call that? The Hudson or the Henry heave to Collins. It's a great game, great moment. I can see some changes to the OCDC after the season if things don't improve greatly. This is Chris Johnson. Christopher Shea says if the recruits look at it as helping build a team to be good, maybe they will commit and stay. The problem is with that, Christopher, is that when you look at the body of work, and look, negative recruiting is a thing. I think there's actually an NCAA violation against it, but it's not serious, and it happens. Negative recruiting happens. Okay, I can tell you that. I can tell you that right now. Negative recruiting happens. And when you're 2-10, 3-9, you want to go be a part of that? Like, there's been a 4-year rebuild? Like, just to get to 5 wins, that's a part of your rebuild? Like, I can understand 3-4 years to get to a really high level of success. That's not their projection right now. The projection is 3 or 4 years to make a bowl game. Like, it's going to be hard to sell that to some of these higher tier recruits, these kids out of East Texas, despite Chad Morris's connections. I could see some change. Oh, I already read that. All Chad can tell recruits is you have playing time your freshman year. Well, I mean, and that too is another thing that can wear off because eventually, like, look at the receiving core. We talked about this. after they had some receivers commit in this class. Look at how many freshmen are playing this year. And you look at the guys that are probably still going to be here next year, you're going to have to redshirt some guys. So you can only sell that so much. You can't sell that every year because that's just not true, and it's not the case. And kids are smarter than you think. Their families do research. Their families pay attention. Mom, dad, uncles, aunts, they pay attention to that stuff. Before the season started, everybody knew this wouldn't be a breakout season. Now we are seeing that play out, and people are acting like we were a 10-2 team last season, says Chris Johnson. No, couldn't disagree more, actually, at all. Nobody, like the expectations this year were maybe a bowl game. And I think based on the amount of fans that I listen to here in Northwest Arkansas on the radio, to the fans that we talk to across the Hog Talk podcast, from our Discord to Twitter to social media, the people that I interact with, nobody had Arkansas. Like, yeah, you had your 9-3, 8-4, 10-2 random, I don't want to call them knuckleheads, but people just not really, I don't think, really involved. Like, yeah, you're going to have those comments thrown out there on social media, but I think most fans expected this to be a struggle just to make a bowl game. I mean, just based on my comments since I've been doing this, it's really rare to see someone say, coming into my chat, saying they're going to go 10-2. I didn't see that very often. I couldn't disagree more with that. I don't think anybody thought that this would be a breakout season. Everybody knew this wouldn't be a breakout season. Now we're seeing it play out. People act like we were 10-2 last season. No, I don't see that at all. We knew the turnover that Morris brought with the roster, maybe a bowl game, was the goal. Let's see. I always watch, but if anyone had any kind of hope before this stream, I'm sure they don't know. Yeah. I think the reaction that you're getting, Chris, is that you lost to San Jose State. Okay. The reaction that you're getting is that last year you went 2-10 when you had the talent to at least win 4 games. You have the talent this year to win 4 games. And they could still do that this year. It's doubtful. And that's almost a chuckle. You almost can hear the chuckle in the background when you say something like that. But I think it is, like I said before, they have the talent to win 4 games. They have the talent to maybe win a game they're not supposed to, in a game that they're favored to lose by maybe less than 24 points. But the question is execution and the product on the field. The question is putting together 4 quarters. We've not seen that under Chad Morris. That's why you're getting the reaction that you're getting. Nobody had high expectations this year, especially based on what we saw last year. And a rebuild shouldn't take, like, your projections, honestly, are not real high year 3 and year 4. Now, that's far out. And I'm usually not one to say anything like that because I know it's game by game basis. It's week by week, month by month basis, right? And you got to build. It's going to take 2 or 3 recruiting classes to get to an elevated level of success. I completely understand that. But it shouldn't take juniors and seniors and 3rd and 4th year players to beat teams like San Jose State. The excuse of age and experience is ridiculous when it comes to teams like that. When it comes to talking about Colorado State and how you had to etch one out in the 4th quarter against Colorado State at home. That's a problem. That you've got a problem on your hands. And I agree, some people were too far high on this team. You and some other media people I keep up with were saying we'd be lucky for a bowl game. We were going to be lucky for a bowl game. Yeah. Dakin says, me too. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, Dakin. I must have missed something Dakin said because everyone's LOLing. What did Dakin say? All Chad can tell recruits is you have to play your freshman year. I don't know what everyone's laughing at. LOLing. I'm sorry. I'm out of the loop. We just expect to beat San Jose State. That's not asking too much, says Jay. And that's the problem. Like, this is where we're at, you know, and it's and there were people out there. And again, I admit there were people out there that were, I just don't think we're really paying attention. And you are seeing some of those people blow up. I agree with that. And some of those people are friends of mine. Some people on my Facebook, some Facebook friends of mine, they're like, I can't believe this. I thought Arkansas would go 9-3. What are you doing? Should we be in the SEC, says Chris Russell, or Chance Russell. Sorry, I'm not dyslexic. Your insight is great. Well, if you're talking to me, Christopher, thank you. I appreciate that. Dakin, rebuilds in college football sometimes take 10 years. Look at Clemson. I'm not saying they should hope, but hey. If it takes 10 years for a single rebuild, look, that's honestly, that is actually hard to argue with because Brett Bielema was supposed to be part of that rebuild. And here we are. I think what you get is you just get bad hires. At the end of the day, it's a rebuild, but at the end of the day, what Brett Bielema did in 5 years was he rebuilt the product, right? His version of the product. He got lazy in recruiting, obviously. You look at his last 2-3 years recruiting, it was terrible. He passed on some great talent. At the end of the day, his opportunity at a rebuild and the outcome of his version of a rebuild collapsed, never happened. So because of his horrible recruiting the last couple of years, Chad Morris is handed, like I've said before, a pretty crappy deal. The cupboard's bare. For Chad Morris to come in, first off, they're definitely not going to give him 10 years. Since Petrino, though, you could realistically argue this has been one great big rebuild. When I would probably argue that each coach's attempt to rebuild this program have been bad. They've not worked, obviously. I think we can all agree with that. So I guess it just depends on what your definition of how a rebuild should happen and what you consider a rebuild. And, Florida State's probably been saying the same thing since they lost a legendary coach. Since Jimbo kind of came and went. To them, they're still rebuilding since the Bowden era, even though they had some success in between there. I think each coach has a chance at rebuilding, and you have to give them time. And I've been on the boat of Chad Morris. I don't think works out here. I don't. I'm on record as saying that. You can quote me. I don't think he works out here. That doesn't mean that I believe he should be fired tomorrow or he should be fired Monday or even after the season. I'm not saying that. I'm not on board with that yet. I just have a hard time seeing him keeping his job if he loses to Western Kentucky by the end of the year. But also, if Hunter comes out and says, I believe in what he's doing, he's taking the program in the right direction. It's obvious he's speaking to his recruiting because nothing else is working. So then you have to look at the big picture. The big picture is to rebuild a roster from top to bottom with some decent SEC quality talent. It takes more than 2 classes. It's going to take 3, maybe 4. I don't know that they do that. I don't know that they should keep him for that long. My God, it's going to be hard to swallow 2-10, 3-9, and maybe your ceiling being 5 wins for the next 2 seasons. That's going to be hard to swallow, and I don't think fans will take it. And and then all of a sudden you start talking about the bottom dollar, and then money speaks to everything. And I don't know. There's just so many variables in this very complicated equation that I have no idea what the right move is. I don't know what they do. It's hard to see and it's hard to say. But the interest in college football for Razorback fans, or at least Arkansas football, is at an all-time low. It's at an all-time low. And can you keep that up for 2 more years? Because, again, I don't think Chad ever turns the corner here. I just don't. I think he's the in-between hire. I think the next guy is going to be able to come in and probably help turn this thing around. I think that's probably what's going to happen, or at least that's the outlook of the way it should unfold, right? You've got this talent, you've got the best roster you've had in years. The next guy can come in and do something with it. There's no doubt that the talent on that roster is better, and you have to give Chad Morris the thumbs up for that. You got to give him credit. Cody Sutterfield, how do you think if we play unbelievable and A&M plays terrible, we win? Yes. If Arkansas plays 4 quarters of football, if this team is all on the same page and A&M comes out, look, I think they got a bye week next week, but they come out, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're beaten up by Auburn pretty bad. They had a really physical game last week. They come out and just play like Arkansas did against San Jose State. I think they have a shot, but I don't think it happens. But they're going to have to play their best game that they've played all year. Ever under Chad Morris to beat A&M. The talent's just too good. Chris Johnson. Also, I feel like the bottom talent level football is up for group of 5 NFCS teams. The worst team nowadays. Chat's rolling around too fast. Hang on. NFCS teams. The worst team nowadays is shoulders above the talent of the worst team 10 years ago in San Jose State. 10 years ago, San Jose State still shouldn't win, which is why we see Georgia State beating Tennessee earlier this season and all the unexpected upsets over the last couple of years. The brand of football has changed dramatically, and a lot of it has to do with the environment of football today, and that's that the game so heavily favors offensive football. It's opened the book up for anybody to beat anybody. I mean, that's what's wild. Now, we still had some crazy upsets 10 years ago, but I do feel like you are seeing them, and Chris is right. I do think you're seeing them more frequently than you've ever seen. But it's not just that. It's not just that, the way the game is officiated, it's so much in favor of offensive football. And then on the other side of it too, offensive football has evolved so much along with that. So it's like two folds against this defense or against defenses today. That's why I said 10 years ago, I don't know what the numbers are, but I guarantee you the numbers were not like what they are now. Like bad offenses are putting up 350 yards a game. Bad offenses, right? 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. I do think that the offense has dictated football, the way the games are called, the way the games are officiated, and the evolution of offensive football. They just coincide with each other, and it's stacked up 2-1 against defensive football today. Defenses, you can't tackle a guy the wrong way without getting a penalty. The PI calls are ridiculous, and the way they call those now are ridiculous. You can't sneeze in a quarterback's direction without getting a flag. You can't say something to a player without getting a flag. Before too long, they're going to do away with sideline warnings, and it's just going to be a 20-yard penalty if you're on defense, and that happens to be the team that's out on the field getting the penalty. It's stacked up against defenses. So offenses today, because of that, because of the evolution of offense, and again, the way the game is coached and the way the game is officiated, anybody can, like, it's almost like 7-on-7 football now. Like, unless you dominate, and this is why the SEC is still the toughest grind, because of line of scrimmage play, because they're stacked with first, second, and third round talent on the defensive line and the offensive line. Like, you have to have talent in the trenches. That holds true in the SEC. Also, the speed in the SEC on defense is just, they're faster, bigger, stronger than everybody else. That's just bottom line. But no, I do agree with that. I think that, again, you had, who was that? Appalachian State that upset Michigan back in, when was that? When was that? 08? Somewhere back. You still had upsets 10 years ago, but it's not like, it seems today like it's way more frequent. Let's see. The thing with KJ, you guys are talking about KJ, and I'm not even anywhere near where you guys are at. Let's see. Johnny Talks Sports. They lost against Louisiana Monroe is what set the Arkansas program back, in my opinion. I think it was the things that led up to that. I think it was the Petrino, obviously the bike. It's the events off the field that led up to that loss. And ever since then, it's just been a down. I mean, you're not wrong, but I think in broader terms, I think it was the events that led. Maybe you could even go as far back as hiring of Petrino. Even though he gave us some really solid years, especially his last 2 years were great, his short time on campus. But Morris likes to say he focuses on how we play and who we play, all fine and good, but surely he doesn't mean they're not scouting the opposing teams after last week, I wonder. I don't know. It's a good question, Mike. Let's see. Leach would be awesome if Chad doesn't work. Jay Massey says he'd be very well received. Chris Johnson, exactly my point, Ty. Glad you understand the limited explanation in 200 characters. I just don't know if a Chavis kind of defense can work like it used to. And it won't. Chavis' style of defense to be that aggressive with the evolution of offenses and how fast the quarterbacks have evolved along with the game so much. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that Goff is better than than Troy Aikman at Dallas. That Jared Goff is better than. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that. Well, Drew Brees, you can make a solid argument. Drew Brees and Tom Brady are like staples. Like they are Hall of Fame quarterbacks. But like you can name any list of quarterbacks outside of those two. I'm not going to tell you that they're better than Dan Marino, Troy Aikman, Brett Favre. Those guys, Kurt Warner at St. Louis and then at Arizona. Like, I'm not going to tell you that they're, but the way the game is established now with everyone running these 4 and 5 wide sets, and just the style and the optimization of the offenses, it's insane. It's like these guys figured out the secret ingredient to a good offense. So you do have these guys that taper off, right? You have these guys that blow up for a couple of years and they taper off down the road. And you do still have defensive football in the NFL. So there are some teams in the NFL that are pretty good. I've got the Niners on my fantasy team, and they're on bye week, and I had to settle for Seattle. I wasn't real happy with that because I don't have any room. What was I to do? I'm not going to, I really regret that because I think the Niners defense is pretty good. My fantasy football team's coming around. I really thought, because I missed out on like 5 rounds of the draft, so I thought my team was crap, and I've managed to pick it up, and I'm 2-1, and I'm averaging like 115 points a week. Not going to complain. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on about what my thoughts on where this game is, and we weren't really supposed to talk about that. We drifted off into that for a while, but Auburn is playing like a defensive team this year, and they are. Auburn, A&M, LSU has actually opened things up on offense. They're actually, you could argue they're an offensive team, but they still play really good on defense for the most part. They really do look like a top 5 team. There's some defensive football. You still have that because, again, the SEC dominates the line of scrimmage around college football. It looks like that's going to be the case this year. Again, the speed is in the SEC, no doubt, mostly in the SEC West. So, yeah, I don't know. If you got any questions, feel free. We're hanging out like we always do with these live streams. If Morris doesn't work, Petrino rehire. No, not going to happen. Or Leach. Or if Blake Anderson ever left A-State, would be a great hire in my mind. I think they need to let him work until his contract is up. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know, but I don't think that Petrino would be a great hire. I just don't. And I said this last week, I think it was, that he's not the same. Tiger Woods effect 2.0. The venom is out of the snake. Don't take that literally, but the venom is out of the snake, and I don't think he's the same guy. And you go back to his last year at Louisville, and I know that was only one bad year. You look at the rest, but like the ceiling at Louisville, even with with a Heisman quarterback and everything he had going on there, it was better than what Arkansas is at right now. Maybe you could make the argument that Petrino would. Current state Petrino would be better than current state Chad Morris. You could make that argument, but I don't think it'd be a great hire. Leach would. I like Leach. I like Leach a lot. You think Arkansas State could beat us right now? Yes. And I would wonder about UCA. I would. I mean, think about that. If Arkansas State and UCA were left on this schedule. Would you think those are for sure wins? Arkansas State, no. UCA, I don't know. I don't know. They beat Western Kentucky. What have they done since? Are they like undefeated? What's their deal? I still think Norville would have been a good hire. I like Norville. I think he's got them undefeated. I've been on. That's who I wanted them to hire, and that was the rumor. And I don't know what happened. I've heard the Board of Trustees just after a little research decided not to go with Norville. I don't know. I don't know why not. He wins games at Memphis. He finds a way to win. This year on offense, they're not near as good. They're not. I watched a little bit of them this year. They're a defensive football team now. Like, he works with what he has, and he wins with it. He's beaten the SEC. He's beat Ole Miss. I know they're bad. Tyler Edmonson, undefeated. Is that UCA you're talking about, Tyler, or Memphis? Because UCA might, if they're undefeated – I wasn't a huge fan of Norville. I wanted Kiffin, says QTZ. Oh, Mike Lane's talking about Memphis. Yeah, they're undefeated. They're 4-0. Would you, if UCA and Arkansas State were left on the schedule, what are the odds of beating those two teams? Would you look at UCA and say that's a for sure win? Joking. They have one loss to Hawaii. UCA is 3-1 in their division. Okay, so they did lose to Hawaii. Yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah, and that was at Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. Of course it was. Who would go to? I'm kidding. All parts of Arkansas is beautiful. Don't we play Pine Bluff in 2021? Wait, that's a good question. I think they do have. They did schedule somebody. Someone's going to have to do a little research in the comment section before we log off. We got about 2-3 minutes before we go. I think they did schedule somebody. Maybe it was Pine Bluff, or was that basketball? I'm not up to date on future schedules. I don't focus on future schedules because I want to break down the season that's laid out before us, but I feel like I should know that, and I don't. I don't know. QTZ, don't forget to smash the like button. That's right. All right. Well, I think we're gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go have a daddy-daughter night with my kiddos. I don't know, rent probably oh God help me, some Disney princess movie or something. Eat some pizza, pig out, hang out with my kiddos. That's gonna be my evening. But whatever you guys do, Bikes, Blues, and Barbecues in town in Fayetteville. I'm glad I'm not messing with that tonight, but if you're in Fayetteville, or if you plan on commuting to Fayetteville, may God be with you. Fayetteville supposedly canceled school today, or had already planned this out ahead of time, Fayetteville Public Schools, because they knew how bad traffic was going to be. So they didn't have school. Fayetteville Public Schools didn't have school today. 2021 and 2024, we have UAPB come to Fayetteville. Okay, yep. What if Chad Morris is still here? What are the expectations at that point? We have Notre Dame next year. Yeah, I know all about that. They got Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. I know they scheduled Oklahoma State too. Who Gundy. I don't know why more people don't talk about Gundy coming to Arkansas. He's supposedly, the rumor had been for the longest time that he and the board of trustees and the AD, nobody gets along. Just saying, he wins. If you can win at Oklahoma State, I don't care that T. Boone Pickens donated, his testicles along with $1 billion to that school. I don't care. You're winning at Oklahoma State. Pretty impressive. So I'm just saying, maybe they ought to try to throw a couple of houses at Gundy. We're going to kill Notre Dame in baseball. All right, that's going to do it. Again, thank you guys so much. These often just turn into hangout sessions, but I really do appreciate it. We will be halftime show tomorrow, God willing. And then halftime show over on the Hog Talk Podcast Facebook page. And then after the game, we will be here. It won't be long because we got a whole day of football, and it's probably going to be pretty depressing after the game. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe something happens that we can cling on to, and I'm just going to stop right there. Maybe something positive happens that we could dwell on. I don't know. But again, thank you guys. Like, comment, share, all that cool stuff. Check out the links down below in the description box. And I will see you guys in all sorts of different places tomorrow. Again, halftime show over on the Hog Talk Podcast Facebook page, and then the post game right here. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And don't forget about the Discord. I already threw it in there, but I'll post it again in the when the video's done uploading. I'll post it again down below in the comment section. So, woo pig, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.